I'm going to give you another quote, and this now brings in your old friend. He isn't your old friend, John Laurinaitis. So, on or around December 29th, 2020, a threesome was arranged between McMahon, Laurinaitis, and Ms. Grant at McMahon's condo. Shortly after meeting Laurinaitis, Ms. Grant asked him if she was the first woman who McMahon had introduced him to in such a setting. Laurinaitis failed to respond and shot a look directly at McMahon, who quickly intervened by kissing Ms. Grant and initiating the sexual encounter amongst the three of them. So it is implied, or I'm inferring, that this isn't obviously the first time they've caught a girl in their web in that sense. I'm going to carry on with more Johnny Ace stuff. Vince then starts farming Grant out to Johnny Ace, negotiating regular times Grant had to service Laurinaitis on... excuse me, coughing. Mostly revolving around Grant going to Johnny's hotel room and euphemistically serving him breakfast. Her being the breakfast. Grant is then transferred to talent relations, working directly under Johnny. Grant does not want any of this, especially McMahon forcing Grant to apprise him of all encounters with Johnny. So McMahon is getting his jollies by proxy, essentially by being described afterwards. Here's a quote again. On numerous occasions, Miss Grant was directed to visit Laurinaitis at his hotel room before work to serve himself as breakfast. These devastating experiences made Grant feel as though she was being pimped out as an object for sexual gratification for a new boss. Upon information and belief, corporate funds from the WWE were used to finance Laurinaitis' hotel stays when these coerced sexual encounters occurred. And this starts playing into sex trafficking because she is being made to go places, essentially, to service other people that she says she doesn't want to. Now,
let me ask you this. Did she ever go over state lines to do this? Did she travel to the shows?
That's a good question.
Because that's a violation of the Mann Act.
Yeah, she is invited to a WrestleMania early on. I think this is before a sexual relationship comes to the fore with her and McMahon. I think she does go to maybe a pay-per-view or two. I don't have everything in front of me to confirm that, but there's one bit where Vince says she can either have sex with him in the car or his office, and she doesn't have a choice. So, hey, that could have gone from Connecticut to New York State, for all I know.
Mm-hmm.
Johnny Ace.
Good reasoning.
Yeah, thank you.
Start in New York, finish in Connecticut. Yeah, or stop in Connecticut.
John Laurinaitis. Now you spoke about John.
It brings up another question. Isn't he married to the Bella twins' mother?
Oh, yeah. He was married through the entire deal.
The entire time during all this.
Oh, yeah.
Can you imagine what's going on in that household now?
I can't believe they're not divorced yet.
But the Bella twins had to hear this too, didn't they?
There'll have been rumours. You heard the rumours at the time while you were there. I'm sure there were rumours floating around Johnny that he was a...
Well, not about this, but I heard about, his dalliances with females.
Yeah. And the Bellas in the women's locker room, they'll have probably heard it before you did.
They did. That's where I heard it. So they had to hear it first, then it filtered down to me. Now, whether anything changed or not, but it still concerned Vince and women. That wasn't his wife. So,
did John Laurinaitis? Because you were in WCW with him, like in 1990. I spoke to Shane, and Shane said he was always, to use his parlance, he said he would have screwed anything that moved. He always had that reputation.
He was Shane's partner.
Yeah,
they rode the skateboards or whatever they did. But I've never been close to John because, again, when you get around certain people and they give you certain vibes, you kind of want to. I've always had that ability. I think even when I got around Vince, I said this before at the start of the podcast that he put off a vibe that I didn't know how to interpret, and he made me feel uncomfortable. Johnny Ace is the same way. He put off an unusual vibe. I didn't know him to have a lot of real friends. Not that you have real friends in wrestling anyway. But he seemed like to me a hard guy to get to know if you wanted to know him. Vince is the same way. So when I get those feelings about people, I kind of keep my distance from them. Of course, it's not hard to keep your distance from Vince because he's protected by a line of people standing outside his door. And when he's walking, he's always walking with several people around him at all times, even at the matches. So this doesn't surprise me about John Laurinaitis at all.
Leaving, I don't know how specific you can get, but leaving out names, anything specific that you heard about John during his time as VP, Talent Relations VP?
Well, yeah, I used to talk to the girls, and some of them would be not in a manic state, but kind of panicky. I'm not going to mention any names. And they would say he just gives them the heebie-jeebies or whatever that means. Really, really, and you can tell when a female is kind of scared, especially in the fear that he's going to ask them something or try something or try to kiss them or feel them. And that's why they try to keep their distance from him. So I've talked to a couple of them. Not long after they talked to him, he'd call them in a little room like Vince would, and they would come out. Not that I was standing there, a guard at the gate, but they would say they would stay in there 10 minutes or whatever. But when they come out, they would be like panicked, kind of, upset, nervous. And some of them would just go sit down and not talk to anybody. And they would sit there and what they were doing, they were trying to sort it out in their head, what had happened and what's going to happen. Because now this guy who is their boss, basically, or he's over them, what they're going to do without getting, in the wrestling business, I say, without getting heat on them. If a guy makes a move on you, I would assume, I never made a move on a guy, but he makes a move and then he's rejected, he's rebuffed. Now he's pissed off. How's that going to affect the girl's career? Like they may want to do something with her and he's not a supporter of her. And he said, I wouldn't do it with her. And he may keep her from advancing. So when they came out, they was not only concerned about what he had said or what he had tried to do or what he did, but they were concerned about their career, and rightfully so. Which goes back to the problem that I asked at the start of this podcast. Why didn't that Janet, what's her last name, Grant? Yeah, Janet Grant?
Janelle Grant.
Janelle Grant. Why didn't she say no? Because she was scared of losing her job. Said she was down her luck anyway, broke her, and the old saying, broke her than a broke dick dog. I mean, that's pretty broke, and she needed the job. And she got a, and this is another thing that I'm thinking about. Who was the friend who introduced her to WWE or to Vince? Anybody know?
I think it was originally one of Vince's personal assistants or something like that. So they had a direct line to Vince, but it wasn't through like the wrestling division in that sense.
I see. So
heck of a friend.
Yeah, this goes deeper than what we're even taking it now.
These are basically the worst bits of the John Laurinaitis portion. And on June 14th, this is a quote again, 2021, Miss Grant again told McMahon that she did not want to engage in sexual encounters with Laurinaitis, adding, "I've left the hotel feeling bad about myself every time."
What year is this?
This is 2021. So this has gone on for a decent amount of time now. McMahon responded with John Laurinaitis' involvement less than 2 years, but this is 2 years into the Vince McMahon Janelle Grant relationship. McMahon responded that the one-on-one encounters could cease, but he expected threesomes with Laurinaitis to continue. Text messages also say that Laurinaitis is a sloppy drunk and that he can't keep his mouth closed. Like, this is Vince saying this. As we say over here, Vince is old gobshite. He can't shut his mouth about this relationship to anyone who'll he'll listen.
But he's bitching about Laurinaitis.
Yeah.
Talking about it.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Now, threesome rape allegation. McMahon and Laurinaitis ignored her pleas and brought her into Laurinaitis' office, forcibly touching and undressing her before forcing her to engage in a threesome on a conference table. Miss Grant pleaded no, 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 and please stop. McMahon responded with no means yes. Miss Grant once again told them to stop. Instead, McMahon licked his fingers and penetrated Miss Grant and said, "Take it, bitch," with each taking turns restraining her for the other. Laurinaitis then joined by forcibly shoving his tongue, then penis, into Miss Grant's mouth. Here is another Johnny Ace rape accusation. During, I think this might even be the day after, during a June 15, 2021 encounter with McMahon and Laurinaitis in the latter's office, Laurinaitis shoved his tongue in Miss Grant's mouth after she pleaded to stop the whole encounter, then unzipped his pants and shoved his penis into plaintiff's mouth. And here is a Vince McMahon rape allegation. Now, obviously, prior to what I'm reading, I'm sure a prosecutor can say it's a grey area, or she said yes, or she was eventually convinced and consented. These are all stone-cold rape allegations. McMahon rape allegation on June 23rd, 2021, around 11:42 a.m. McMahon directed Ms. Grant in the middle of a workday to meet him on a lower floor. When Ms. Grant arrived, McMahon led her inside his private locker room, locked the door, and forced himself on her over a massage table. Later that day, a $15,000 gift card to Bloomingdale's were purchased at McMahon's direction and delivered to McMahon's personal assistant to Ms. Grant in her office. Now this, and also, I'm sorry, I'll finish with this. Johnny Ace's wife on multiple occasions.
A 15,000 gift certificate.
Yeah, oh yeah. But that's like, how many times have you heard like abusers in like a domestic relationship? You know, the man hits, well, probably the woman hits the man as well quite a lot. You know, it's not all one way, but a man hits a woman and then the next day says, "I'll never do it again, buy some flowers," and that kind of thing. It sort of reeks of that. But I'll finish with this and then I'll throw it back to you. Johnny's wife, on multiple other occasions, while Ms. Grant worked under Laurinaitis, including after McMahon's promise that one-on-one encounters would end, and even after his wife moved across the country to join Laurinaitis, he would call Ms. Grant into his office, lock the door, unzip his pants, and instruct Ms. Grant to perform oral sex.
Okay, who moved across the country?
Johnny Ace's wife.
She moved from where to where?
Probably California to Connecticut, I imagine, something like that.
Okay. And it still went on?
Yeah. Allegedly, as we say.
That's between them, but I don't know. It just reads bad.
Yeah.
It reads bad, and it reads sleazy. Let me say that.
Now,